it's a pretty big, broad, very diverse NEC. All right, the primary purpose of this chapter is standardized sanitary measures used on board installations, specifically for installations, to safeguard the health of sailors and Marines, or any service members, because we're obviously turning into more of a tri-service community, right? To prevent the spread of infection and ensure mission readiness. Disease outbreaks have the potential to seriously impact mission readiness capabilities as well as morale. Most of the time when it comes to actual injuries, even in wartime, the majority of them are going to be disease non-battle injuries. And you'll see that when I teach chapter 9. Like I just mentioned a little while ago, this entire chapter was completely revamped. It was a little bit longer. There were a lot more numbers, things like that, but it's not really things that we need to know, because again, we're turning more into a tri-service consolidated thing, and it's basically it really good. The things you're really going to be seeing on your advancement exam are going to be housing and lodging, maybe confinement, maybe, and the frequencies, and that's what I'm going to really go over here. Whoever prepared the slide was not me. I actually did a really good job about actually annotating and highlighting the things you actually have to know. So I'm going to spend a little extra time on that, and I'm going to do the old core school to go ahead and make sure that you guys actually write that stuff down. Take a picture, or if you guys have the slides, just make sure you review those things right there. Commander, Navy Installations Command, CNIC, is ultimately responsible for the housing and lodging program of everything. CNIC. Who's responsible for lodging? CNIC. All right. It's typically going to be a captain or an admiral, and that's going to be whoever's responsible for the command. So for here, Naval Support Activity Hampton Roads, which we fall under, that's going to be the captain that's over at Norfolk. Naval Station Norfolk. I can't remember his name, but like this technically falls under that. All the annexes fall under that captain. All right. Doors, Defense Occupational Environmental Health Readiness System, Industrial Hygiene. That one actually, when you need to know as well, is going to be EH. The biggest thing to remember on that is going to be doors. All right. Defense Occupational Environmental Health Readiness System. That right there is where we actually document and upload all of the freaking inspections that it is that we do. Does anybody here conservation tech? No? Oh.
I don't think.
Well, actually, if you're going to hear conservation tech course, doors, all your hearing tests are actually maintained in a repository for about 50 years. The reason for that is because of long-term trends to figure out what it is that's actually going on. I can go into more in detail regarding this one, but I'm not really going to, because I have a kind of bittersweet relationship with Navy Marine Corps. Force Health Protection Command. That's an entirely different subject. This is a tri-service program where we actually use Army forms to actually document everything. Again, tri-service, so Army's typically going to be the spearhead on this. They're going to be the tip of everything there because they're the largest service, right? And just remember it as Navy Marine Corps Public Health Center for advancement purposes, okay? Don't write down Navy Marine Corps Force Health Protection Command. Because I don't think that's on any of your inspections right there. Sanitation Center for Housing and Lodging, representative for Preventive Medicine Department, will document inspection findings using the habitability survey. So, building, berthing, lodging, the bricks is going to be on a habitability survey. That's a sanitation inspection that we conduct right there. So when it comes to Preventive Medicine Department, that can be either a preventive medicine technician, an environmental health officer, or a preventive medicine representative. Basically, any quasi-zero corpsman who has any interest in becoming a PMT, or they just happen to put you there, we can actually train you up so you can actually get certified to do all of these things. Typically, a lot of the people that do this end up becoming PMTs because there's a lot of flexibility in our AC specifically. One thing I note from this right here is going to be that the completed inspection reports have to be provided to the responsible personnel at the facility. All the results have to be given to the installation CO. Habitability reports, all reports have to be given to the CO. Biggest takeaway. Cool? Cleaning. So for this one here, this was actually reworded from the previous one. It actually used to actually say, it used to have to be cleaned prior to like any people that are watch standards. There used to be an actual subject, like a little column for like watch standards, where you have to be required clean linen, clean sheets, everything. There was a whole checklist on how to do that. They don't actually do that anymore. So now basically, what that means right there is fresh thermometer between guests. You may be living in the barracks, you are considered a guest for this chapter. Meaning that you get there and they give you your linen. And then you leave, you give them back your linen. And every person who goes in that room subsequently from here until whenever gets new linen, basically, right? Every new person gets new linen. Common areas must be vacuumed and swept, mopped daily as appropriate. Basically, if it looks dirty, clean it. Commanding officer, as always, has the authorization to make it even stricter than everyone else. So if you're in the bricks, they're like, hey, no, you're going to clean up every single day. Guess what? You're going to clean up every day. Gear lockers at present must be clean daily and free of debris. Water, this is a really big one right here. The temperature, no higher than 120 degrees. So water in any facility, to include the NGIS, which is Navy Gateway Inns and Suites, the Navy Lodge, the barracks, to include the actual hospital, any facility cannot go any higher than 120 degrees, and that's to prevent scalding. Scalding being getting burnt. The reason there is a higher temperature, we're going to go over it a little bit later in shipboard test management, but the only one you really have to worry about is 120 degrees. And why? Because that has the capability to kill bed bugs if you happen to have bed bugs in your room. All right, the other thing too as well, and I believe it is in your bids, Chapter 5. So, who can tell me what NAVMED P10 Chapter 5 is?
It's not on my bids.
I don't know if you guys have gone over it. Probably not.
I don't think they have Chapter 5 on their bibs.
It's not on this time?
It was on the first class bibs, but I don't think it's on the second
That's why
class.
I'm confusing it. All right, well, anyway, that's water quality ashore. All right, so if they ask you, it's going to be in the water quality ashore. Refuse, so that's basically any trash, right? This is a little bit of confusion on this part right here. So per reference I, which is the 40 CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, means that you're actually supposed to get rid of all of your food waste, anything that has food, basically your trash dumpsters, have to be removed once a week. However, trash in your facility must be removed daily. So trash in your bricks, your barracks, excuse me, or wherever you are, that has to be removed every day. But as far as the actual refuse, like the dumpsters that are outside, those have to be removed once a week. Same goes with the field, actually. All right, this is the only distance you actually have to know here. So this is for close proximity. This is for any combined or maybe open bay, right? Everybody went to recruit training command, so everybody knows what open bay is, right? You're actually supposed to have at a minimum 72 square feet per person. Now it's a little bit more condensed when it comes to the ship. However, in the actual berth facilities, every single person is supposed to have 72 square feet of floor space per person. So if you have 4 people sleeping in there, the room has to be big enough for 4 people, so 72 times 4. And then in between your racks themselves, they have to be 3 feet in between. On the ship, obviously, anybody who's been on the ship, it's a lot closer than that. It's probably about 2 feet. I've only been embarked with the Marines, which is totally rad if you guys ever get a chance to do it, because you don't got to do 3M or none of that. No, all you laughing at there, that's fine. But it's pretty great. And you're going to be doing a head-to-toe sleeping arrangement. Specifically when it comes to open bay, if you have just a roommate, that really isn't going to apply because you're going to have that distance. However, the reason why in a ship specifically that you're going to have head-to-toe is because of the cross-contamination of actual breathing particles. Getting sick and sleeping face-to-face with someone, you're probably going to get sick a lot faster. Right? We learned that from COVID-19, right? Disinfection of bathroom facilities, and that's basically going to be any daily contact surfaces. So any knobs, you basically should be washing it or cleaning it every single day. I've never seen any investment exam before, but it might be, so that's why it's highlighted, right? Biggest takeaway from this one are going to be the distances. Biggest thing.
A lot of this stuff should just be making sense to you because it's everything you do to prepare for your barracks to be inspected at any moment. You're doing all this shit about taking your trash out every day, making sure everything's wiped down, cleaned off. It literally follows what you're already supposed to be doing for your barracks inspections.
But you've been taught from recruit training command through A school, through Holding, through C school, whatever it is you've done, field med even. These are processes that have been in place for quite a while for that specific reason. So this comes right here for the Navy and Marine Corps, owned and operated family housing. This is still technically a thing. In this facility, for example, there's a difference between the family housing that's owned by the Navy and Marine Corps and there's PPV. I don't think I've seen any questioning of any events exam that I've seen regarding PPV, which is a private purchase venture housing, which would be Liberty military housing. The only thing that really applies to us here would be the skipper's house. over on the hospital point. So that one, we actually should be inspecting, because that is owned by the Navy and the Marine Corps. So that doesn't really apply anymore. However, they actually should be inspected by us if we do have that type of housing. We really don't. When it comes to the PPV housing, it can only be inspected with a consultation basis request from the commanding officer. So we can't just go in there and be like, hey, we're going to inspect your house. The commanding officer actually has to be involved with that, because these are private companies that are owning housing delegated for servicemen.
It's basically saying if you live on base, they have free reign to inspect you. If you live off base, they have to get a request and get it approved to actually inspect you off base,
Yeah.
i.e. a firearm or some other situation where they need to check your living space off base for some specific reason.
So if anybody here lives over at any base housing, right, that's not within the gates, we can't inspect you. Like, the commanding officer has to become involved in that. Frequency on this one, so any inspections for unaccompanied housing are going to be conducted at least quarterly. So barracks inspections are going to be done quarterly. All right. There is an additional number for this one, and it gets a little bit muddled because it's going to be 5% for the total number of room as part of the routine inspection. There is another one where it's actually 10%. Just worry about the 5%. It's really the only thing you have to worry about. So if you have, 50 rooms, 5% of those rooms are going to be inspected. The other thing as well, you cannot have any pets inside of your unaccompanied housing. So any barracks rooms, you cannot have anything in there before. There used to be a policy where you can have a fish, but that's no longer a thing anymore. So you can have fish. I believe there was a point where you can have a reptile, something like that, but you can't. If you see any animals inside of the barracks, you should probably tell someone. Anybody's in the campus room, there's like, those dudes like to have dogs in their barracks for some reason. I don't know why. There's a whole mother pit bull Rottweiler in the office space that I use. I don't know. So Fisher houses, this is going to be specifically to the NPS. Everybody knows what the Fisher houses do, right? So you kind of have an idea of what they are. So if you have a long-term patient or have family member who's long-term patient and you are not from the area, they can temporarily TDY you to the hospital, and you will be living there at the Fisher House, which is actually by the main gate here, to live until your family member or whatever the case may be is cleared and released from the hospital. I lived in one for a little bit for my daughter.
But it's not even just for patients. It could be you're on a housing waiting list, and then they can set you up in there temporarily until that house becomes available. But it's only for specific areas. It's not going to be for a place like this, where the housing lists are 4 to 6 months long at some times.
Yeah, these are a little more tricky. Specifically because this is the largest MTF, it's a lot harder for anybody to get in there last minute, unless of course you're on HUMS orders, or which are humanitarian orders, or LIMU type things like that. But it's pretty rare for that to happen. Pets, the only pets that are going to be allowed are going to be anybody from the Americans with Disabilities Act and military working dogs. So anybody who is actually deemed to have a pet. Those are the only ones, those are the only types of animals that can be in these facilities, right? So if you guys have seen that dog that's running around here, he's like a captain or colonel, whatever. Yeah, so that dog is authorized because it's cleared by the American Disabilities Act. The one that has not really morale dog, I can't remember what they're called. But they're the only ones. Actually, the succession for Chesky here, we're on number 16, I think. He actually is cleared to be a service dog. It's the only reason I can go into 8th and I over in Washington, D.C. Wastewater sewage disposal. Biggest thing about this one is going to be your distances right here. 4-inch sewer riser pipe connected to an improver sanitary system. That's going to be for any of the RV parks. So for any wastewater having to do with fecal matter, urine, gray water being run off from your RV, there has to be a 4-inch sewer riser pipe in order for it to be cleared off. All right, that's the biggest thing. And you're not going to see it written this way in the advancement exam, but signage stating that water is unsafe for human consumption is usually just going to say non-potable. Non-potable water. Pretty simple, right? When we go over chapter 9 of the P5010, we go a little further in detail with that, because when you're clearing out a water bowl, you actually have to write down poison, do not drink, when you're actually superchlorinating a water bowl. But just remember, unsafe for human consumption is non-potable water. Naval confinement facilities ashore, so it's going to be your brigs, your actual brigs, not the little coffee shop called the brig that's over at NSY, which confused the living heck out of me when I got here. Those inspections are going to be completed quarterly. Facility staff, so you might see it in the investment exam written like, hey, how often does the medical SMDR, the senior medical representative of the brig, inspect it? It's daily. All right, brig facility staff, including IDCs, they typically have 2 or 3 IDCs, or Army equivalents or Air Force equivalents. They're required to actually do weekly and monthly. Our inspections are only done quarterly. They're pretty in depth. You go through all their training records for all 3 months, their inspections, everything. It's a lot of work. I don't think I've ever seen. Have you guys ever seen the corrections manual on the exam? I don't think I have.
No.
But never. Maybe for an MA, but not for us. Personal beauty facilities. Biggest takeaway from these is that we do not conduct those physicals. All right. So these, any beauty facility or barber shop, beauty shop, I guess even a nail salon that would be on base. I know the MCX at Camp Pendleton has one. Those are actually run by NEXCOM and the Marine Corps Exchange. All their physicals, all their training, everything goes through them. They don't go through NAVMED P. All right. I wouldn't worry about the frequencies on there either. But it's personal beauty facilities. So barbershops, they're owned by the MCX or NEXCOM.
That's really the only question you'll ever see on the test about this slide is just who regulates it. They're not going to get that much in the weeds about your tiers and points and all that.
Yeah, and the frequency for that is really not going to be a thing. They're usually done quarterly. That's the biggest thing. Most inspections are quarterly, with the exceptions of food facilities. Depending on the type of food facility and frequency, that you get into a whole table, and I'm not going to go into that. Disinfectant solutions, they need to be prepared daily. So if you are doing quats or mixing your 1 to 10 parts of bleach water solution to sanitize your spaces, they need to be mixed every day. That's the biggest thing you got to take away from that. I can't remember what chapter it is from the Corpsman Manual. This is preventive medicine and infection control. Preventive medicine is like 1 slide, and the other 30 are all infection control. So I'm not teaching that one. But that one has more infection stuff, but that one should actually say as well, all disinfection solutions are prepared daily. All right.
It's chapter 9 of your Corpsman manual, and then it goes straight into chapter 10 that goes into disinfection and sterilization.
Takeaway for this one right here is going to be your contact time. All right. Most contact times for disinfectant solutions are going to be 10 minutes. See the frequency there? 10 minutes, 10 minutes. There's one that I saw here, and 10 minutes. Child and Youth Program facilities. Chief Commander Naval Installations Command and the Director of Marine Family Programs Division are responsible for the prospective services. So CNIC owns the CYP. CNIC owns the actual Child and Youth Program facilities. And that includes the ones that are here, like the CDCs, the CYPs, which are like the after-school programs, and the CDHs, which are civilian homes that any service member with a child can actually have them go to those locations. It does not apply to any civilian facilities. So like I can't go inspect my daughter's daycare out of town.
This is the reason why it was an issue during COVID, if anybody remembers who have children. Since they are not owned by the Navy, they were shutting down their facilities, and then even though we were required to go to work, we had to figure something out because we can't control what the CDC and all them do on base with their youth centers. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but they manage that, so the DoD doesn't have overlying regulations over them.
Yeah, it got to be pretty muddled for that one. I thank you for bringing that up because that was a really confusing time because a lot of facilities were closed because of the potential of the spread, right? Whatever your thoughts are, they are your thoughts. However, that was something that was a huge problem because you had a lot of people that couldn't come to work because there was no childcare. And people who had to work those positions because they didn't have kids. A lot of hours spent working. And it wasn't cool, but I mean, it is what it is, right? We're here for each other. Just remember that those are going to be inspected on a minimum annual basis. So CNIC owns Navy CYP. Cool. Fitness and sports facilities, so that's going to be like your gyms that's here, your gym that's over at the Building 3. Any gym, those are going to be inspected by us as well. Staff is responsible for actually sanitizing it daily. When you go in and do an inspection quarterly, you're gonna check, again, quarterly. That inspection is done quarterly. Gym and fitness facilities are done quarterly. That's not in here, but it is supposed to be quarterly.
If you've noticed, it's the same exact theme this entire PowerPoint. Cleaning or anything involving cleaning is daily, or anything that is involved with bulk or something bigger than that has been on a quarterly basis, and any inspection has been quarterly. So
certifications are annual.
Yep.
That's the biggest takeaway from that.
So they all follow the same flow in this PowerPoint.
Yeah, daily disinfection, quarterly preventive medicine inspection, and then annual certification. The biggest thing is going to be quarterly inspection. Most of the inspections are going to be done quarterly, all right? Unless, of course, we deem that there's somebody pooped on the ceiling and we got to do it every month. I'm not kidding. There's 2 PMRs that I have in here. When I mentioned NWA barracks, Marine Corps barracks at NWA, whoop, I can show you pictures, man. It's terrifying. Question?
I thought you were asking for PMTs.
Habitability, sanitation, afloat. In this portion of the previous chapter is where you used to be able to see the actual, the different distances and dimensions when it came from like E1 through E3, E4 through E6, chief petty officer and officers above, right? Rank wings are not in there anymore because I always remembered it as the younger in rank you are, the lower in rank you are, the less space you need laying down, and the higher in rank you are, the more space you need going up. This distance that it used to be, the whole pot belly thing. For this one, when it comes to the afloat ones, the executive officer is the one that's responsible for maintaining these routes. So the executive officer has to go with your SMDR, your preventive medicine representative. If you're on a small boy, it's going to be basically just your IDC. Your IDC is going to be your preventive medicine authority when it comes to those right there. Unless you are on the ESB. The ESB billet is actually an IDC and a PMT, which I really want to be on. I want to go on one of those so bad. And once again, those inspections are conducted how often? Quarterly. All right. So again, with the head to foot sleeping arrangements, even on the ship, if you have those privacy curtains, if anybody here has been on a ship, and you can probably tell me also that those curtains are ripped off most of the time. I don't know why, but people rip them off. It is what it is. You have your little fan at your foot where you can actually get some circulation in there, but you still want to encourage and, if anything, enforce the head to toe sleeping arrangement to prevent getting sick. Everybody went to recruit training command. Everybody, I'm sure, got sick with some kind of crud while we were there. So just kind of keep that one in mind, all right? Head to toe sleeping arrangements.